up, Sauce Gang, and welcome back to the channel. Hot Sauce Beats here with a massive reaction for you. I have been waiting for this one for a hot minute now because I'm talking about a game theory FNAF timeline reaction. That is right. And today we're peeping out game theory FNAF, the final timeline, FNAF Ultimate Custom Night. Now, Matt Pat, we know you capping. A, this is not the final timeline, and B, there will never be a final timeline because there will always be FNAF lore. Yes, the lore. So I'm beyond hype for this, fam, but before we jump into it, make sure you show Matt Pat over at Game Theory some love by subscribing to his channel. And if you enjoy my reaction, smash that subscribe button because it greatly helps. But enough talking, let's get to reacting and roll that bomb-ass intro.
Hot Sauce Beats is finally here. Hot Sauce Beats is finally here. Eat, sleep, make beats. Eat, sleep, make beats.
Hot Sauce Beats. Woo, woo. Oh, I'm pretty sure my voice might have cracked during that intro, but editing Hot Sauce will figure that one out. Let's go! Let's go!
Hi, I'm Masahiro Sakurai. Today I'd like to introduce you to the new Super Smash Bros. Game for the Nintendo Switch. Many fighters have appeared in the series. I'm sure you're all eager to find out who will be joining the roster this time. Please, take a look.
Is this the right video? Jesus Christ. Oh, Ultimate Custom Night. Okay, I get it. Everybody's an ultimate custom night. Come on, fam! I'm so excited about this. Other than Minecraft Manhunt, which is my #1 favorite thing to react to, I think #2 is a FNAF timeline, and now very quickly QSMP's up there. But I love this. Come on, bro. Let's get excited. Super Smash Bros. FNAF. Come on! You guys missed this old intro? Tachi's not doing a FNAF one for this.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, the William Afton of YouTube.
I always come back.
So here's something crazy. You know how every FNAF game tends to have 5 main nights, a bonus 6th night that gets you more lore hints, and then a challenge mode 7th night where you customize all the animatronics?
Yeah.
Well, look at the games. We have 5 main games bearing the 5 nights title, a bonus 6th game that was mostly for lore, and now a 7th standalone release where you customize the animatronics. The game releases directly mirror the gameplay. Either Scott is a mad genius or I'm thinking about things way too hard.
You try to read into every little thing and find meaning in everything anyone says, you'll just drive yourself crazy.
I heard you last time, Mr. Hippo. But guess what, you
Mr.
Barbie
Hippo,
reject?
mama,
Reading into
miss?
every little thing is the only way to have this series make any sort of sense whatsoever. Case in point, today's episode. With the final novel out and Ultimate Custom Night picked to shreds,
Not the
it
final
finally
novel.
feels like
Stop
the
it.
story of
Just
FNAF
stop
is
it.
at its end. Or at least the Afton storyline is at its end. The series will probably come back to tell another story in the same universe later. I mean, it's exactly what Scott did with FNAF 4, the quote-unquote final chapter, of the original FNAF story. I see what you did there, Scotty. It's the final chapter of the original story. But oh no, friends, he wasn't done. He even ended that teaser with a question mark if you brighten that screen up enough.
Oh, you sneaky little imposter! You sneaky little imposter!
Man, Scott, you really wanted to leave the door open for more games in this series, didn't ya? You were milking it more than I was. Or, I guess
a
we're
little cow,
both
milking.
milkmaids at the teeth.
You can milk out anything with nipples.
Anyway, as they say in
Name that movie.
FNAF world, the pieces are in place for us. So it's time to take one final step back and put every single one of those pieces together into this, my final timeline for the final FNAF game. Though, let me save you some work. If you brighten the image you see on screen right now, you'll see that there's a question mark there. Since,
I knew it.
You know,
I always come back.
and if he
Sounds
comes
like the
back,
Joker.
well, I gotta pull myself a Samurai Freddy and pursue the anime Fox of Truth wherever it may lead. Let's do
True that.
this. Now, putting together a final timeline of events for this series is incredibly challenging and requires us covering
Still
a lot
is.
of really minute
2023.
details from literally every element the series has ever released. This is my longest, most involved theory in 7 years, covering every square inch of the series. So fair warning that this episode is not for the faint of heart. It is extreme. A way for me to simultaneously flex my knowledge of the minutiae of this series, all while trying to come up with a satisfactory answer to pretty much every question it has ever thrown our way. And of course, there are some questions that don't have clean answers, which I'll be calling out for you as I go. So for those of you who want to take the challenge and attempt a timeline on your own, let me first explain my thought process.
No. I don't want to do that. Matt, Pat, I already go crazy enough being down in this FNAF rabbit hole, watching your theories, watching FNAF's theories now, watching Markiplier's playthrough, FNAF animations, FNAF songs. I don't want to. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not making my own timeline. Not today, Satan. Not today.
As I was writing this episode, there are 3 hard and fast rules that I applied. First, it's important to note that I put greater emphasis on information that was released more recently in the series. While, yes, everything in the series is important, by FNAF 4 and even more so Sister Location, we can assume that Scott had a complete picture of the story in his mind. It's easy to forget that FNAF 1 was going to be Scott's final game after years of trying to be a game designer and hitting dead ends. Do you really think that he imagined a lore so deep that it would cover 8 games, 5 books, and countless teasers, that he predicted his story would be so massively popular that it would involve undead purple people way back when we were all just making memes about Foxy Swiggity Swooty coming for that booty? Probably not. So it's safe to assume that the newest information we're getting in games is the most accurate in pointing to the final story he's looking to tell. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2, adhering to key dates and events. Now, there isn't much that's certain in this story, which means that the things we do know must serve as fixed points that the other details fit around. We know for a fact from FNAF 1 phone calls that the animatronics are allowed to walk around freely until the bite of 87. We know from FNAF 3 calls that the golden spring-lock suits are eventually retired to a back room after a tragedy at a sister location, the FNAF 4 bite, which itself takes place in 1983. FNAF 3 also tells us that at some point William Afton tries to dismantle the robots, whose spirits rebel, causing him to become Springtrap, eventually getting himself sealed up behind a wall until the workers at Fazbear Fright discover his body and set him loose again. Details like those have to be our guideposts if we're having any hopes of getting anywhere in the story. And lastly, rule number 3.
None of the rules matter.
This isn't just a simple linear timeline. It's clearly established in the games that multiple Fazbear locations exist at the same time, and that the events in one affect what happens in other locations. For proof, just look at Phone Guy in FNAF 3.
Welcome to your new career as a performer/entertainer for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Right now, we have 2 specially designed suits that double as both animatronic and suit. After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees.
This not only tells us that the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza had 2 golden suits, but also that the first Freddy's was open at the same time as the FNAF 4 Freddy's. The spring lock failure in the FNAF 4 location prompted the yellow suits to be retired in the FNAF 1 location. In short, a lot of these events overlap. Restaurants often stay open for years beyond what we see in the games, and everything weaves together in a way that's much more complicated than simply saying, this restaurant opened, kids died, it closed. The next one opened, kids died again, it closed. In all honesty, I suppose you could simplify it.
Rinse, cycle, repeat. Rinse, cycle, repeat.
I am holding myself to a higher standard. A slightly higher standard, but a higher standard nonetheless. So with those 3 logical rules in place, let's get...
And fam, I think also too, we gotta remember, we gotta be fair here, right? These are theories. We can't, I think these are 3 very simple rules to adhere to. And as long as he does that, the rest, I mean, they're theories. You know what I mean? We don't have many things that are set in concrete in FNAF. Even with books, fam, that it's not concrete. It's not concrete. It's very similar, and we can use it to guide ourselves, but there's not many things that we have that are concrete, cold, hard facts in FNAF. So I think these rules are very fair, and then we see what he's gonna craft. Paint us a masterpiece,
to
Matt
begin,
Pat.
we have to identify who William's first victim was. Now, I've covered FNAF a lot, but in all my theories, one thing has remained consistent since FNAF 2, that the puppet was first, Henry's daughter. She is the character who gives life to all the other animatronics, so it would just make sense for her to be victim numero uno. But outside of that, it's always been just an assumption. And now that we've seen the event actually take place in the games, I think I've been wrong about it this entire time. Think about it. We have proof that William kills Henry's daughter in FNAF 6, but as I talked about in a previous theory, we see that later that night, Afton goes to a place called Junior's where he's turned away at the door. Now, why would Scott show us this? FNAF 6 was all about tying up loose ends. He's not just gonna throw in a random bar to establish that the Mustard Man is an alcoholic or anything.
Mustard
He's
Man.
doing it to establish a timeline. The only time we hear of anyone being turned away from any building for any reason in this series is in FNAF 2.
From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out, especially concerning any previous employees.
And the name Juniors makes sense in Scott's classic way of giving us clues that are meant to clarify things, but really just end up confusing all of us. Remember, FNAF 2's location is the Grand Reopening, a second Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria location, a junior location, if you will. And lastly, to further solidify the puppet coming later in the timeline, remember why Freddy's closed in the first place. It wasn't due to murders or animatronics going haywire. According to the FNAF 1 newspapers, people just got weirded out by a place where kids disappeared. Quote, after a long struggle to stay in business after the tragedy that took place there many years ago, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has announced that it'll close by year's end, end quote. This all means that the missing children's incident where 5 kids go missing at a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza must be the first event of the timeline.
Before Henry's daughter. Now, chat. Do we know, like, is there anything at all that 100% proves that Henry's daughter was first?
William Afton uses the Spring Bonnie suit to lure 5 kids to the back, employees-only safe rooms that we hear about in FNAF 3, hiding their dead bodies in the animatronic suits. We can even figure out the order of who was killed when based on clues hidden in Ultimate Custom Night. We know with 100% certainty that Chica was first based on one of her death lines.
I was the first. I have seen everything.
That's about as explicit as you get with these games. From a storytelling standpoint, I hate that Chica's first because it really should have been Golden Freddy, so he could be the first spirit killed and the final spirit to haunt Afton in Custom Night, but whatever. Chica, aka Susie, is death number 1. She's lured away by Afton, telling her that her...
So, riddle me this, chat. Do we take that as the first out of the 5? Or do we take that as the first overall? This is something I didn't know.
dog died. We see it in FNAF 6's Fruity Maze. We also read about it in the 4th closet. Quote, beside them was a little girl with blonde curls. I heard Daddy say he was hit by a car, but I knew it wasn't true. Bonnie told me it wasn't true. He said he found my puppy. And did he take you to your puppy? He took me, but I don't remember. My name's Susie. We even hear about it in the Chica anime cutscenes from Custom Night.
I told him that someone ran over his dog in front of my house.
Jeez, Scott, I know we were all looking for answers, but man, you beat that one over the head, didn't ya? Not that I'm complaining, but that one was a bit overly obvious, and then all the other ones are just so damn obscure. Just gotta find the right balance here, man. From there, we know that 4 other kids get taken and stuffed into suits. We know their names based on the gravestones at the end of FNAF 6. Gabriel, Fritz, Jeremy, and... Grass. Hey, who are we to judge what other people name their kids? Probably some celebrity's kid. Oh, you must meet my children. This is Apple, Audio Science, and Grass. All joking aside, though, loyal theorists will remember this last grade was giving me a lot of trouble during a past theory. You see, this book, the FNAF Survival Logbook, holds a ton of reveals about the franchise, but they're all hidden in code. Some I was able to deduce, some left me stumped. But a few hours after releasing my video covering the book, the mystery was solved by the brilliant deduction of game theorist subreddit user DPowerful1. DPowerful1 used the numbers that I had found, 52, 39, 15, 7, 2, 10, 11, 8, and 11, and put them not into an alphabet grid for ciphers like I'd been doing and like the book was clearly hinting towards, but instead put them into the word search, of all places. Using the numbers as coordinates in the word search, you could spell the name Cassidy, a name that
What? Dude. Wow.
Must
That's
belong to Golden
crazy.
Freddy based on the repeated use of Golden Freddy's signature line of "It's me" throughout the book, the gravestone imagery which lines up with the 5th mystery gravestone at the end of FNAF 6, and a mention of Cassidy in the final FNAF novel, The Fourth Closet. And that would be more than enough proof, but it's not all. In the novel, Cassidy is described as a girl with black hair. And what do we see in the logbook? The puppet giving cake to a little girl with black hair. The only human child in the logbook, no less.
Oh, wow.
And it's happening on a page talking about your happiest day. A direct reference to the happiest day minigame from FNAF 3, where the puppet gives cake to Golden Freddy in an effort to release its soul. You can even hear a girlish laugh every time Golden Freddy is summoned way back in FNAF 1. Literally everything about this reveal lines up. Everything, of course, except for the pronoun of he being used to talk about the one you should not have killed throughout Custom Night, which, as we established last episode, is referring to Golden Freddy. But consider this, Golden Freddy is a male character. He's Freddy Fazbear, he's Fredbear, regardless of the spirit that possesses it. So the gender confusion works here. Scott even used that to his advantage in the casting call, where he was specifically looking for auditions where, quote, the gender should not be immediately clear. It should work as either a young boy or a young girl.
Or because there's multiple people inside Golden Freddy.
FNAF, teaching kids that gender is fluid, but only if you spend 4 years picking apart its obscure lore. Yeah, by the way, FNAF is 4 years old this August. It's crazy, right? Wow, I've been doing this for a long time.
Dude,
The
it's
last
even
thing to
older
say
now,
about Golden
bruh.
Freddy is proving
What
that
are we
he
at?
gets possessed here, at the first Freddy Fazbear Pizza location,
8.
rather than in FNAF 4 like most of us have assumed in the past. You see, in Ultimate Custom Night, you get an item called a Death Coin that can eliminate one animatronic from the game. But if you use it on Golden Freddy, you don't eliminate him from the game, you just get jump scared by Fredbear, and then hear some strange sounds. Ah! Huh. It almost sounds like Fredbear is underwater, which we all know is going to be terrible for those spring locks. Anyway, I played around with those audio files and got him to hear. Laughter, obviously. Let's find a suit that's right for you. And there was more fantasy and fun where I came from. That last one feels really random, right? Like, "Arrgh, I'm an angry spirit who just killed you, but let me tell you about my love of fantasy, fairies, and long walks on the beach first. I'm very in touch with my emotions."
Yes.
However, the phrase fantasy and fun is a direct reference to the first game in the franchise, where Phone Guy welcomes you to
Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun come to life.
It's Scott telling us that Golden Freddy is the same spirit who speaks to the crying child via the Fredbear plush at the end of FNAF 4, but who dates all the way back to the first pizzeria and the missing children's incident. Phew, you got all that? Good, because that's the easy stuff. Well, not easy, obviously, considering I'm on page
Cheers,
4
everybody.
of this script and I've only just talked about the first event in the series. But there is consistent logic and evidence to back it all up. However, it's at this point that things get messy from a timeline standpoint. You see, right now there are two dangling threads of events that directly conflict with each other. One, the first Freddy Fazbear location has to close so it can reopen sometime before 1987. However, it has to remain open at least until 1983 when the FNAF 4 bite happens, the event that prompts Phone Guy to call back to the FNAF 1 location informing them that the Springlock suits are being retired.
Welcome to your new career as a performer/entertainer for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Right now we have two
this is why this stuff is
specially
so tough,
that
man.
double as both animatronic
You
and
can,
suit.
I don't,
After learning
I don't know if we ever will have a timeline that does fully make sense, because again, a lot of it overlaps, and there's multiple things that do conflict with each other, especially with the newer games. So, and I know a lot of this stuff doesn't, like, we don't even know.
of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees.
This is important because Phone Guy later makes a point of saying that the Spring Bonnie suit is still being moved.
Management has also been made aware that the Spring Bonnie animatronic has been noticeably moved.
which implies that Afton is still using it to kill kids, aka the missing children's incident is still going on even after the bite of 1983. That would all be fine except for point number 2. According to Hand Unit and Sister Location, Circus Baby's Pizza World is opened after Freddy Fazbear's
Open for
closed.
Due to
business.
the massive success, and even more so the unfortunate closing of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, it was clear that the stage was set, no pun intended, for another contender in children's entertainment.
Again, this wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for the empty girl's bedroom that we see in FNAF 4. As we established in a previous episode using the FNAF survival logbook, the crying child is Michael Afton.
Stop it. Stop it, Matt. Get that out of your head. Stop it. God, dude, I'm so in love with this timeline. I'm like, dude, everything's lining up. Hence, Michael equals crying child.
Which would make this his sister's room, Elizabeth Afton, the girl who gets herself clawed and goes on to possess
Which that
Baby
still
on
makes
opening
sense.
day of Baby's
Yes.
Pizzeria. That's why she's missing and why her room is empty. But that can't happen if Freddy's is still open. And Freddy's can't be closed until the bite of 83 causes the spring locks to be retired so that phone guy can make his call. You see the problem there? Do you understand why creating a timeline of all this stuff is so darn complicated? Anyway, to move forward, we have to apply rule number 1 that I talked about earlier and throw out some of the phone guy information in order for the events to work. Freddy Fazbear's first location closes in the aftermath of the missing children's incident. With no pizzeria to serve as his murder den, Afton tries to launch a new restaurant, Circus Baby's Pizza World. It's important to note that this is an actual restaurant and not the underground rental service you see in Sister Location. We'll get to that one much later. Based on the name,
Well, yeah, the one that's underground, isn't that the original?
we can be confident that this place has a clown aesthetic, which makes it likely that all the animatronics who don't fit into the Freddy Fazbear series of restaurants were made specifically for this place. The Mini Renas, Balloon Boy, JJ, Dee, and of course, the star attraction, Baby. Notice how
Circus
they
Baby.
all even look alike. However, on day 1 of the restaurant opening, Elizabeth, Afton's daughter, finds herself alone with Baby and gets herself clawed. We know that it's closed on day 1, both from Baby's story and Sister Location.
Did you know that I was on stage once? It wasn't for very long. Only one day.
And from this hidden news story about a supposed gas leak posted on Scott's website in the lead up to the release of the game. This in turn explains a lot of the weirdness going on in FNAF 4. Why Elizabeth's room is empty. Why Michael Afton has nightmares of animatronics with stomach mouths. And why William locks Michael in his room and has so many surveillance cameras following him around. He doesn't want what happened to his daughter to also happen to his youngest son. You see why it's so important for Circus Baby's Pizza World to happen before the events of FNAF 4? Before 1983? A lot of pieces fit in place if it does. Anyway, in the aftermath of
I
the
don't
tragedy,
know, fam. Okay. Dude, I don't. This timeline, it's so tough, dude. It's so tough. Even the newer timelines, like, because again, we don't really have much. And I don't know how I feel about throwing some of the phone guy stuff out to make the timeline fit. Because I feel like, again, abiding by those rules, things that are concrete that Scott put in, hence phone guy stuff, I feel like you do have to keep. But we also know that originally 1 through 4 was the intended plan. So I feel like things after 4 don't necessarily have to add up to the first 4 games because Scott intended it, I mean, let's be real here, for it to all be a dream. So I feel like you can't really make a timeline that is concrete and 100% works because that's not how it was originally intended.
he buries Baby and most of the other humanoid characters underground in a facility that we'll eventually explore in Sister Location. The rest go on to the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria,
almost like
which
they're
is set to
parallel, you know?
reopen. But
Some
first,
stuff works,
running
some stuff
parallel
won't.
to all of this, and I mean all of it, is Fredbear's Family Diner. Not the sister location we visit in the game Sister Location, but the only sister location actually called a sister location by Phone Guy during his FNAF 3 calls about spring locks.
The an unfortunate incident at the sister location.
We know for a fact that Fredbear's Family Diner is the FNAF 4 location based on this purple hat teaser that came out with the release of the game. Brighten the image, look down in the bottom right-hand corner, and fill in the blanks, and you get yourself property of Fredbear's Family Diner. We also know that it should fit here in the timeline because of one small detail that Scott made note of with the release of FNAF 4's Halloween edition. While Nightmare Puppet and Nightmare Mangle weren't canon, he made it clear that Nightmare Balloon Boy was. Now, if
That's
I'm
crazy.
right about Circus
That's crazy.
Baby's Pizza World and the red-cheeked design of its characters, then the crying child would have come across Balloon Boy. He existed at this point in the timeline. But because both the puppet and Mangle exist until the FNAF 2 location, neither of them would be appearing in his nightmares. Therefore, not canon. Therefore, the timeline continues to make sense. So at this point, we know how the story
Oh my
goes.
god, wow, bro. That was just a loop right there. This is getting hard to keep track of now, dude. Like the last 60 seconds right there. Wow, okay.
William is working there as what appears to be a suit technician. Michael Afton, aka the crying child, has witnessed his friends and maybe even his sister get killed. I mean, he's even locked in the supply closet with what appears to be the body of Golden Freddy.
Safety is top priority at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is why the classic suits are being retired to an appropriate location while being looked at by our technician.
At the end of the week, at his birthday party, he gets shoved into Fredbear's mouth by his brother, and crunch! He dead,
Crunch,
son!
crunch,
The
crunch.
spirits of his dead friends, all 5 of them, remind them that they're still here for him, and the whole incident goes down in history as the bite of 83, based on both the TV Easter egg in FNAF 4 and the code in Sister Location's secret room. Oh, but again, it's here that we hit another little wrinkle. You see, in the FNAF survival logbook, it asks Michael whether his favorite ride was the carousel, a feature that was only present in the FNAF 2 restaurant. This also coincides with my hypothesis earlier about the Midnight Motorist minigame and Juniors being another name for Freddy's version 2. It would make sense that that place that he's going to is indeed him running out to the new Freddy Fazbear's location. But we know Michael gets bit in 1983 and that the FNAF 2 location is open in 1987 based on the paychecks you see in the game. Fortunately though, there's an elegant solution this time. The FNAF 2 location is just open earlier than we thought. Remember, Fredbear's Family Diner being open doesn't preclude a new Freddy's location from also being open at the same time.
That's very-
the
that's
new
very
and improved
true.
Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria is just open earlier than we all thought, at least as early as 1983, and continuing through 1987 when a new series of murders happens and the bite of 87 gets it closed down. This all allows Michael to visit that place again, have the carousel be his favorite, but still die in 1983. Because William doesn't want to lose another child, especially since he's in his own killing spree, he puts security cameras everywhere and uses the illusion sound discs first introduced in the Twisted Ones novel to scare Michael away from the restaurant. That's what he means by he'll be sorry when he gets back. William is intentionally locking him in his room, giving him nightmares, hence why Michael is so scared by the time we see him in FNAF 4.
So I will at least give Matt Peck credit that even though he's obviously wrong, I can see early on why you would think Michael is the crying child. Because again, all those, I mean, he just, if we were back then, I mean, he would have sold me there. But we obviously know he's wrong.
Additionally, Ultimate Custom Night proves that the Nightmare animatronics are just that. Nightmares. Illusions.
This time, there is more.
Illusions!
I am given flesh to be your tormentor.
Both these lines indicate that before, they were just an illusion, they had no flesh. But now, in the latest game, they are real. So contrary to popular belief, these things were never real animatronics. Just a glorified way for William to keep his son away from his murder locations. Except, obviously, it didn't work. Despite his best, well, maybe not his best, but definitely his most stalkerish efforts, Michael gets crunched and dies. A fact that becomes very problematic for the timeline,
Michael,
considering that
but
Michael
yes.
Afton clearly survives till the end of the games. We see him in Sister Location. We watch him get scooped.
And that, my friend, is what messes up a lot of this timeline. Because, yes, we know that Michael and the Crying Child are two different people. And, yes, Michael does carry on. The Crying Child does not.
We hear about him burning in FNAF 6. How is all of that possible if he's already dead? Surprisingly, there is a way to solve it, and I have the evidence to prove it, but sadly it'll have to wait until next time. This ended up being a 12-page script, which there's no way that we can do all in 1 week. So in the words of Dee Dee, how unfortunate, how unfortunate. unfortunate.
is there another-
This
is this
a
a
thing
two-parter?
I hate to do, but the rest has to go in a part 2. Anyway, don't worry, we'll get it out as fast as possible. It's already written. I just need to divide this up for editing purposes. In the meantime, though, make sure you jump scare that subscribe button to, well, who knows what it does at this point, but it makes me feel good about the effort I put into this video, which is really nice. So make me feel
Obviously,
good.
we
It also
love you, Matt
improves
Pat.
the likelihood that you're gonna see the conclusion of this episode, which is even better. And in the meantime, if you missed my last FNAF theories, well, watch the ones from FNAF 6, linked on screen right now. You'll need them to really understand part 2 of this theory when we get into the more recent
more
events. Now, if you'll
stuff?
excuse me, remember, that's just a theory. A game theory. I've gotta go roll into recording part 2 right now, so I'm gonna go do that. Yeehaw! Final FNAF theories.
Woo, they're not
Anyway,
final.
now that we've spent an entire episode chronicling the fictional deaths of 10 to 12, stuff to happen to your device.
So,
and the
I just want to make sure that
simply
there's
head
no
to
more
Nord
FNAF stuff
and do
on
it
here.
now. Protect
Yep,
yourself.
that's it. All right, let me bring you in, Sauce Gang. Dude, so, I don't know, man. It's just, again, a lot of that we know is obviously wrong now, but it still brings up a good point, though, is so much of the timeline can't and will never make sense. Too much of it's conflicting, and I think Scott pivoted. We know that. I think we're all in agreement the first 4 were considered a dream. And then we pivoted away from that, or were originally meant to be a dream. So that's the tough thing, man, is I feel like we got 3 separate things that really mess up the timeline. We got games 1 through 4. God, did my voice just crack there again? Jesus. The game since, where I think Scott pivoted, and then the books, which I think you have to use as like parallel lore, but some of it counts, some of it doesn't. And all of that, I feel like we will never get an actual real concrete timeline. And I think Scott will even say that too. I think we could get really close, but a lot of it can't match. Perfect example, 4 years ago it didn't. Also, a big portion of it was him using Michael as the crying child, and that just obviously throws all that, messes it up. But I still like this. A lot of this does make sense. And it does bring me to the question of, with the timeline, like, who did die first? Do we actually know who died first? And does Chica saying, I'm the first, does that mean she is the first? Did she die before Henry's daughter? And maybe that's something I assumed, that Henry's daughter did die first, and I was actually wrong, and I just wasn't paying attention. So I don't know, let me know. But I had an absolute blast reacting to this. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm excited to see the next part and see where this goes. Show Matt Pat some love by subscribing to his channel. And if you enjoyed my reaction, please help support the channel by smashing the subscribe and like button. It's absolutely free, and it greatly helps out the channel. Enjoy the rest of your day, and remember, it's eat, sleep, and make beats, and as usual, be kind of one another. That's all I got. Boom, I'm out. Gonna be love for the Sauce Gang. Peace out, guys. Love you. Woo, woo, woo.